Black Americans claim of being the original indigenous people of this land, not just race. People of color can be both oppressed and settlers at the same time, depending on the context.
Wait a minute, what? So basically you're coming for African Americans because you all were promised equal power in your treaty that has not been acknowledged and has not been honored. And that's somehow our fault? This content creator made a video essentially saying that Black people benefit from colonialism. Ain't that some bullshit? Why the fuck people just don't leave us alone? How the fuck we benefit from something where we were brought here against our will? Not only that, we were murdered. We were eaten. We were beaten. We were slaughtered. We were fed to alligators. And you're saying that we benefited from colonialism, and we still do, because we have jobs and have homes and have land and we work and we get benefits from the government and pay taxes. So we're the enemy now?
Just so you know, she went ahead and deleted the video. And after deleting it, she posted an apology video that I'm going to show you later on in this video, where she was apologizing to the African American community for saying the word settlers. Now, to give you a bigger context, this woman really came out on the internet and called African Americans settlers and how they benefit from slavery. African Americans are not settlers that can be sent back to anywhere. This is their country. The United States is the country. And it's just so annoying to see some people really kind of like think they've got all it figured out about the African American community and not even care about an opinion that's coming from the real people, the African Americans. You understand what I mean? No, because why would you think you know better about African Americans than them themselves? Just asking. And ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think in the comment section. Why do other people think that they have the power to say whatever they want about African Americans in a negative way? Like they can just wake up and be kicked out of America. Like, I think most people really have a twisted mindset about African Americans. Like, they're here to stay. It's their country. They are not settlers. No, the Africans were brought from Nigeria, from wherever. They were brought on the ships. African Americans, that's their home country. That's their country.
And you're saying that we benefited from colonialism, and we still do, because we have jobs and have homes and have land and we work and we get benefits from the government and pay taxes. So we're the enemy now? It seems like your problem is with the wrong persons. It seems like you don't want to offend your oppressor because somehow, some way, you really still feel like there's an opportunity in y'all having equal rights and equal power over the United States. And I'm here to tell you, boo-boo, that's not going to happen. I promise you that. It seems like y'all, in the time, your ancestors should have fought a little bit harder. Should have fought a little bit harder to keep what was rightfully yours. You want them to restore sovereignty. That doesn't have to be restored if y'all just fought a little harder. Don't you think so? Now you see how crazy that sounds when your ancestors were beaten and things were stolen from them? Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? We were taken from West Africa and our land was taken over. And have you ever heard of Mansa Musa? He was the richest, wealthiest person in the world that ever existed. Our ancestors were stripped of their wealth. They were stripped of their resources, and we were bought here through our ancestors. And then you go on to say in your video, well, I don't feel like y'all should have to leave the United States. I don't feel like you should have to leave the land. Bitch, we're not. We built this shit. For you to sit up here and say, well, you know, I just had trouble trying to phrase it the right way. Maybe you should redo some research. Maybe you should keep your mouth shut before you get on this platform and say the most ignorant shit that you could ever think of. It is not our fault that y'all were not given equal power as stated in your treaty and you want your sovereignty to be restored. Mind you, you all got reparations. You all get Native American TANF and Native American stamps, and you have had decades upon decades of settlements, decades upon decades of reparations. Your family is set for life. Your kids are set for life. We weren't given anything. And whenever we say anything about it, it's, oh, you're throwing the black card, you're throwing the race card. And for you to say the oppressed are settlers. Girl, get the fuck out my face.
Black Americans' claim of being the original indigenous people of this land was that. Hi guys. So I quickly do want to apologize. I have now, after reading through a lot of the comments, I have definitely come to the understanding that my term of using settler within my language to address Black Americans was definitely not factually correct, and it was actually very disrespectful to the Black American community, especially to the African American community who are descendants of the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. It was in no way my intention to ever bring disrespect. I'm still learning a lot of things. I do know some things, but that doesn't mean I know everything. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to allow my ego to get in the way when I have made a mistake. I did make a mistake. I am very, very sorry for that. That was not an accurate description of the history, and that didn't accurately represent what happened within the Americas. Some people have given me some books to read, and I'm going to take the time to read those books. And someone also mentioned a new term that is being used to describe those that are of slavery descent and to describe those from the Caribbean descent. I guess in the end, I didn't do a good enough job of disclaiming a lot of things, and I didn't phrase my words in a correct way, and for that I do apologize, and I want to honor the voices that have told me that this is disrespectful, because if I were to go up to someone and say, hey, what you said is disrespectful to my community, I expect the same kind of like mentality when someone comes to me and they say, hey, this was disrespectful to my community. I want to listen to that because I would want the same energy if I went to them and told them something as well. That's how we can start having these difficult conversations, and that's how we can start addressing things, because there are some things I didn't know. And within the article that I was reading, it does refer to anyone who is non-Indigenous as a settler. And for that, I think there's definitely some critiques within the readings that I need to look at. Someone suggested me I go read that slavery was not a metaphor, because the book I was referencing is Decolonization is Not a Metaphor. So the article Slavery is Not a Metaphor is a direct criticism of, well, not criticism, but it does bring up a few points to consider within Decolonization is Not a Metaphor. I guess in the end, I want us to be able to have these tough conversations of everyone wants to talk about, well, let's stand in solidarity with each other, but we need to define what does that solidarity look like, because it's going to look different with each marginalized group, as we all were affected by colonization in a different way, but we are all still affected by colonization. And in no way was I just, I didn't mean for my comment to be very general. When I look back at the video, it did come across as very generalized, and for that I do apologize. I did write in the description that not all Black Americans have made this claim, but I definitely should have took the time to verbally explain it as well within my video, and perhaps like put a writing up on the screen that was more definitive. And my video also excluded those who do have an Indigenous parent who are officially claimed by a tribe, and those who are descendants from the Taino, aka those who are from the Caribbean. So I'm sorry that I didn't take the time to make these disclaimers, and a lot of things became misinterpreted, and for that I really do apologize. And I now completely understand my error of using the term settler is not factually correct whatsoever. But with that, I also do want to recognize that even though African American descendants of slavery, they were forced here. So they didn't have a choice. Settler does imply that there is a choice to be made. So they were forced to come to these lands and make a home here. So after slavery ended, they ended up having their whole lives here, and they have a home here now. So I do believe they have every claim, they have every right to claim this area, this continent as their home. But with that, I do also want to recognize the fact that even though this is their home, the homes that they were forced to make here is still on land that was stolen from Native American people. So I really think it's good when we have coalition spaces to always define what standing in solidarity with each other means. Because if we don't consistently remind people that this land was stolen from Native Americans, not saying everyone did this, only a few, and I think it's good to consistently remind people, that's when I think these Black Indian groups who claim they're the original peoples of North America begin to arrive. And when individuals also make statements that all of us descended from Africa, ignoring the fact that Native Americans have over 30,000 years of connection to this land, it kind of delegitimizes our voices as well. It doesn't honor the fact that we have been here for over 30,000 years, which is much different than being here for 500 years since the beginning of colonization to the North America continent. And to South America as well. So I think Indigenous peoples, we have an innate connection to this land. Not only is there factual knowledge of understanding what works with each geographical area, as each geographical area requires a different set of conditions to maintain well-being. You know, something that works here isn't going to work down south. Something that works here isn't going to work up north. But there's also a spiritual component where the more that you talk with the land around you, the energy of that land is going to know you and your people a bit more. But that's a whole different conversation. That's a whole different can of worms that I could get into in a different topic and at a different time. You know, I feel like I made that video in a rush because I am constantly facing exhaustion of having to prove the legitimacy of my people's voices and our identity, because our identity doesn't just mean like you have 14th or 10% of being Native American. Unfortunately, that's not how Native identity works. And it's not us who are making these things. It's the colonial systems that are making these things. Because I know that African-American individuals who faced slavery, they had that one drop rule. But with Native Americans, it's a different side of the pedestal, because Canada and the US can't make any legitimate claims to these lands as long as Native Americans are alive. So one way that they try and get out of this is they try breeding us out. Whereas if I am 6'1" status, but if I have a kid with someone who's non-Indigenous, that kid is now 6'2" status. And if that kid has a kid with someone who's also not Indigenous, their child, my grandchild, could lose their status altogether. And that was brought in by Bill C-31 here within Canada. And there's similar challenges down in the US that everyone is facing. So identifying as Indigenous isn't just a blood thing, it's also a political thing. It's also about recognizing treaty rights, because if you're not status anymore, you don't get the same treaty rights, and they have more free reign of what to do because there's less powerful advocates to talk about the well-being of our land, kind of thing. Which is why making these claims that we were just brought over from, that Bering Bridge theory is kind of like delegitimizing Indigenous voices and saying we all descend from Africa is also an attempt to delegitimize our voices. Not saying that everyone says these opinions. There are a few people. There is a small group that I didn't realize until after the video that they're considered a cult, which is amazing. I'm learning a lot of things. This is the point of getting this discussion going, is teaching each other and informing each other of a lot of different things. I didn't realize that that group of people claiming that they're the original Indigenous peoples of this land is considered a cult. But I think it's good to, the whole point of my video is I wanted to make talking points of what people could say when they want to address these individuals. And I don't think just because they're irrational, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try and talk with them. And I don't think we should just laugh them off as well. I think we need to directly kind of like get them to see like, hey guys, what you're saying, it's actively participating in the erasure of Native American voices. And I know that we can charge them. I'm going to do more research about that. But I think it's good for the Black American community and the Indigenous American community to come together and try and figure out how are we going to deal with these individuals that are constantly delegitimizing not only Black voices, but Native American voices. Because in the end, our histories do coexist, and we need to learn how to coexist with each other and stand in solidarity with each other. But how do we stand in solidarity with each other? What does that look like? How do we define that? Yeah, because the history of settlements is complex, and Black Americans are not settlers, but the homes that they were forced to make here, as unfortunately on the land that was stolen by Native American people. So how do we address these conversations in a good way?